Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Grossman, and in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by Marilyn Steffen and her daughter, Taylor Eagleton. And we're going to explore, obviously, using benchmark materials, but really how do we maximize engagement, social interaction while moving our kids online? And I suspect for many of us, it's certainly new for me. It's probably new for you, and that's kind of the main goal of this session, using some of these tools, but again, to ensure that our kids are engaged, that there's lots of social interaction, that their educational experiences do not get reduced to a number of applications and independent work, isolated from their teacher, isolated from their classmates. So I'm in Microsoft Teams in the conferencing software. Depending on your school district, you probably have something like Google Hangout, or maybe you're using Skype. So right now, I'm going to invite Marilyn to my meeting. And you can see that she's being called, and then we'll get this started. Hello, Marilyn.
Hi, Aaron.
All right. And to remind people who I am, I'm Aaron Grossman. I'm a third grade teacher here in Washoe County School District, teaching at Roy Gum, and I'll let you guys do the same.
I'm Marilyn Steffen, third grade at Bud Beasley Elementary.
And I am Taylor Eagleton, second grade at Robert Mitchell Elementary.
And I know we're all trying to practice really good social distancing right now, but you guys get a little special asterisk because you're related.
Yes.
Yes, okay. In case people didn't put that together.
Yes, this is my daughter, Taylor, and she's an excellent teacher, so some of her input will be helpful as well today.
Yeah, so this is great. And so I think rather than just being limited to the two of us, people get some better, some interesting insight, including I think it's important that Taylor, who works with a really impacted population, I think you're certainly titled maybe close to 100% free and reduced lunch. Does that seem right?
We are actually all free and reduced lunch.
Yeah, so perfect, because I know that one of the most popular questions obviously is going to be how do we get our most impacted community, second language learners, kids who may have limited access to online tools, how do they get to sort of be part of this process as well? So with that, just a reminder, we're looking at Unit 9 within Benchmark Advance, and the central question, what do our economic choices tell us about ourselves? And I thought for this one, we are going to literally be very linear. We're going to just move lesson by lesson, beginning with lesson 1, in terms of what's expected of the kids, and then again, how we're going to increase engagement, maximize opportunities for kids to interact with each other with each one of these discrete lessons. So to launch Unit 1, we understand there's sort of this anticipatory set or some kind of hook for the students, and we typically share that video with our kids. If they understand how to get into Clever and they're used to retrieving assignments, you can push out the video that way. And a second option for all of us is to go ahead and share a screen. We log into our online platform here. I've downloaded the Clever extension into my computer. So here's my class, here's Benchmark. Quickly filter through all this. All right, Unit 9, there's our video. So once we've landed in the Benchmark universe, we've loaded up the video. It's just a matter of hitting play. We've shared our screen, and our kids are able to enjoy the video collaboratively.
Spending time and money. People work at all times.
So probably because of copyright rules, we're going to limit ourselves to 9 seconds. And if you're watching right now, I can simply turn off this shared screen and we're going to end up back in our video view. So here we are, back to that normal view. You can see me in the lower right hand corner and the people I'm speaking to in front of me. So we've shared the video, and then what kids are supposed to then do is have that conversation about that launch and what ideas those have generated. And an excellent platform, again, to maximize the social interactions among our class or among our students is something called Padlet. Padlet's free. It's been approved by our school district largely because it requires no personal identifying information among our students. So again, I'm going to hit share. I'll end up back online, and then I'm going to find the tab here with our Padlet. So anybody who's here at this point can go ahead and add to the Padlet. Do you, Marilyn, want to go ahead and go to that Padlet so they can see what it looks like to share
Yes.
an idea?
And then students will do the following: put in a title. Most importantly here, because students are not logging in under their any sort of login, you want to have them put their name, and then they can respond to the video based on your questions or whatever you can start the conversation. I wonder if I'll make economic choices when I'm older. And then what do they tell us about ourselves? So I would respond to your prompts that you have on there, and then it's set to go to share. Students can give feedback then too.
And what we hope that people are seeing here is, again, we've been in a conference format so the kids get to see each other, they watch the video together, and now they're in Padlet where they're actually able to have foster and have the conversation. That isn't essentially led by the teacher, but instead it's just co-constructed with the students at this point. All right. So that's lesson 1. We saw that we can put the video in front of the kids, we can have the conversation. Even better, if we're doing some kind of SEL piece, we could probably put some kind of prompt out there so the kids can start the school day rather than with just a video and right into action, but have some kind of morning meeting, which is also very possible with all the conferencing software we've been set up with. So if we finish lesson 1, we've created this hook for the students, they've had this collaborative conversation via Padlet. Then we actually get into a traditional lesson, and that's where we're going to introduce a text. We're going to be identifying the main idea for the students, and all of that teacher modeling obviously can occur within this conferencing software. If you need to, if you're more comfortable, this is when we can open up Clever and we can put the text in front of kids as we're talking over it. But it leads to that moment in which ultimately they've read the text, they've had a conversation by this video conferencing, and then probably you want some kind of accountability piece or an opportunity for them to write. So what we're doing that's a little bit different in the past, and I'll share my screen for this, is we have taken a lot of our work and we've digitized it. So I'm going to go into 3rd grade. And I'm going to go to this first passage, Ants and the Grasshopper. And here's those text-dependent questions that we typically, if we were in the classroom right now, we just print and put in front of the students. But if that's not an option, because we're online, you can grab this Google form, or excuse me, this Microsoft form, and you hit duplicate, and you can create your own form to push out for kids. And Marilyn is going to explain when we talk about lesson 3, how you can push out something like this form or a document for your kids. But here are these text-dependent questions, having just done lesson 2 with your students. And then the nice thing is then you've got a digital copy from every student within your classroom. And Marilyn, I guess that does lead to, if we have just done lesson 2 and we put Google form or a form in front of the students, go ahead and explain how we can do lesson 3 with our students.
All right, so for lesson 3, it is discussing and writing about the features of a procedural multimedia presentation. So what the kids will have done is how to make chicken and bean burritos is an example of a sequential procedural writing that they're going to do. So I'm going to share how to make this an assignment, a Word document where they can all respond in a Word document. What are the points? Key features of a multimedia presentation. So I'm going, whoops. Okay, so I'm on this page with assignments. Now you come up to this page down here, it says create, and I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on assignment. And I'm going to call this features of a multimedia presentation. I am going to put the instructions for students here. And then I'll put that in a second, but I'll show you how you're going to add the Word document in. When I click on my add resources here, I'm going to add a new file, and it brings me just to a blank Word document here. And then I can call it call it features for now, for shortening it up, and then attach it. Then each student is going to get their own copy that they can type on, which means that they won't be in each other's documents for the quick write. So here I would type for the students, answer the following question. What are some key features of a multimedia presentation? Okay, so that would go here. And then we are going to go ahead and assign it. You just click on assign.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You might want to do points.
I could give it points if I wanted. So however, let's say there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I want them to do 5. I guess I could assign it 5 points. Can even add a rubric if you wanted to. But for now, to keep it simple, we're just going to assign that. And there it goes. So it has been pushed out to students, and it shows here that it's due tomorrow at 11:59 p.m., which you can change on that page as well. All right. So Erin, tell us about lesson 5 with the proverb analysis chart.
So in lesson 5, obviously you're going back through that text about making choices, and we're distinguishing literal from non-literal words, and we're using this format, again, the conferencing tool, so that you can teach that lesson for your students. As we demonstrated earlier, you can get into Clever, you can put that text in front of students using a shared screen. So we won't model that part for you, but we do want to remind you of Marilyn just showed you how you can push out a document in Teams by creating an assignment. And if you're interested, you can find a fillable chart by going to Just Two Teachers. So let's get back there. I'm going to go into 3rd grade, Unit 9. And then we've kind of tried to keep these in order. So here's Ants and the Grasshopper again, and then right here is lesson 5, a fillable proverb chart. And this is the type of document that you can duplicate and then create an assignment from, so that if you're wanting to keep kids accountable to the work in a digital world where you're not putting traditional worksheets in front of students, this is one way that you can go ahead and do that. And thinking about how I might actually use this in my classroom, we'd model the first one together, and then the second one, you can use the conference tool to allow kids to sort of think out loud or volunteer how they might ultimately begin to fill some of these pieces out. Again, thinking out loud, my personal thought is, first you give them some quiet time to try to do it independently before you brought them back together, much like you probably do in a traditional classroom. So that's lesson 5. And then we're going to try to give you another tool, again, with our express purpose of maximizing engagement and increasing social interaction. So I'm going to give the screen back to Marilyn so she can show you what lesson 6 might look like.
Okay, so lesson 6 is actually about starting to brainstorm about your multimedia presentation, and a way for kids to get together and have that social interaction again is through a Flipgrid. So you can add the app to the top of your screen. So, okay, here it is. I've just called it Benchmark, Multimedia Presentation Topics. And here is where students would start to talk about some of their brainstorming ideas about what it is that they're going to want to write about, what kind of sequential, is it a recipe? But mainly the idea here is something that people would want to learn about. And then they can get feedback from their classmates in Flipgrid. Down on the bottom afterwards, when the whole chart is filled with all the students' information, and then that way they can pick an idea in the end. This is just for brainstorming and a way for students to gather and collaborate and have some interaction here through Flipgrid. And can you want to add to that, Erin?
Well, and I'm going to try to remind people, this is not sort of so much a tutorial on how to use some of these applications, just we want to let people know that Flipgrid's available to them. And in short, what a student would do is when they hit that plus sign, they're given an opportunity to record a video about 90 seconds in length. And then those videos are shared in a grid in which other students can then click on them and respond to their classmates. So you end up with something akin to discourse, although it kind of transcends space and time while they're doing that. So that gets to lesson 7. And in lesson 7, this is when students are going to be talking about abstract nouns. And, you're going to find ourselves repeating ourselves insofar as Here's the Teams conferencing software. We're allowed to have the conversation in which I can model for the students. And in fact, it's without just talking around this one this time, I'll go back to my browser. I'll go back into Benchmark Universe, and I can pull up, the student reader, the close read companion, or excuse me, just the close read. And we can be going through identifying some of these abstract nouns within this piece, making choices. Oops. So we have the conversation with our students. We're going through that text. We're identifying and reminding them what abstract and concrete nouns are. And then we can go back into Just Two Teachers. And within Just Two Teachers, you're going to find that we've taken this work, which is supposed to be filled out as a table with the students. And now we've moved it online where they can actually sort of take a quiz on it. So this is their chance to demonstrate in a formative process what did they learn from the lesson you just taught through Microsoft Teams.
Right, and the difference with this one and your last one is the last one is typewritten answers, and then this one will grade itself, which is nice.
So what we're able to do with lesson 8 is we can do what we traditionally do, which is teach it through Benchmark Advance via Microsoft Teams in the conferencing piece. So we do our lesson. Another option, if you're not used to this, another option for you is to use an application called Edpuzzle. It's free, really discreet and sensitive with student information, approved by our school district. So this is the YouTube video in which kids learn from Kids Academy about how to go ahead and discriminate some of these affixes. You can also use Edpuzzle. And for those of you unfamiliar with Edpuzzle, what it will do is that here's the same YouTube video, but this time there are little pause points that you'll see down here. And it just holds kids accountable to the information they're receiving. So instead of a completely passive experience, they'll arrive at a certain point. So they've learned about these affixes, and then they have to answer a multiple choice question. And two nice things for you. Again, it holds the kids accountable to the learning, but also it gives you a score, and you know who's actually watched the entire video and how they actually did in terms of comprehending the information that they just received. So thinking about, again, how we can blend some of these experiences for our kids, and that's what we've done with lesson 8. Lesson 9, we're going to use this conferencing software, and you're going to teach probably kind of the way that you're typically teaching in terms of guiding the kids through the practice. Same thing with lesson 10. We can share our screen, we can have that clever piece, or we can have the benchmark universe and the pages in front of our students. And then another reminder within lesson 10, that accountability, those text-dependent questions, they live online at justtwoteachers.com. And that's kind of how we've been designing these particular supplements or enhancements for this unit. Everything that we would typically think about being printed and put in front of our kids, we're also thinking about how can they be pushed out and the kids can fill them out digitally. So there we are through lesson 10, and that gets us to lesson 11. And Marilyn, you're going to introduce, for those people who are ready for a giant chunk of disequilibrium, you're going to share OneNote.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so in OneNote, what we've decided to do for that is it's based on the skills, the suffixes again. And so, you know, you have your grammar book that you have online at Clever. And then what we'll do is share the screen. So Taylor actually taught me how to do this. We clip the worksheets, and then we had it ready. So we go into our class notebook. That is in every class. So if you have ELA, science, whatever it is, and here's a cute little notebook cover that Taylor made for me. Don't worry about that. And then, so you go into your teacher only, and then we're in unit 9. So those were just all pages we added. And then here is an example. I put some text-dependent questions just practicing in there. So here we have the suffixes worksheet that was just clipped, and the students can access it here. So when they go to type,
now they can use a pencil to cross things out if they use it. They can, if they have touchscreen or an iPad, they could write their answer.
Mm-hmm.
Or if that's not an option, then you can click over the worksheet.
Things. And then this little text box pops up. On occasion, the kids will have to move it around to get it on the line. Right now, this is actually on the line. We'll see it's over. And then you just click on it and they can move it. Whether your kids are skilled in doing this will be the challenge. But like I said, Taylor says she uses it all the time with her second graders. So, you know, I feel that third graders, mine have used it. They're not particularly fond of the text box, but I think it's something that you get used to.
But also when you click away, it goes away.
Yes, that's right. And there it is. Then when you push this out in an assignment, you can actually grade all of these papers right there in the assignment tab back in Teams.
And we're getting dangerously close to the end of week 1 here. So in week 12, you know, just another reminder of put Flipgrid in front of the students so that, because in week 12, they're refining what their idea is, they're thinking about those steps. So they rehearse it and then the kids can provide feedback. And I think it's sort of, you know, there are 2 outcomes simultaneously there, right? There's more peer interaction and then simultaneously, without you having to constantly touch base with all the kids in your classroom. In 3rd grade, I'm looking at 22. I suspect in our intermediate grades in our 30s, it's the kids who can hold each other very accountable for those things and make sure that they refine what they're going to be writing about. And then we had one last reminder, thinking about, by the way, just lessons 13, 14, and 15. You can just borrow all these ideas that we've given you, especially what Taylor just outlined there about taking these worksheets and putting them in front of our kids. Spectrum. So if you don't know, you know, Taylor alluded to the fact that she's working with the kids that by and large don't have access to the internet. Spectrum has generously just said, contact us. We'll push out free internet to people who don't have it. And I know the next question would be devices, but PS4, Xbox Ones, even an Xbox 360 has a web browser, Bing. So a lot of this content, believe it or not, kids can retrieve. It may not be in the most traditional way, but there's multiple ways for them to get it.
And this isn't a really traditional way of teaching for all of us anyway. So we've got to think outside the box and try to do things a little differently if we want to reach the kids, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's perfect. I guess that's the note we'll end on, which is we've walked you through week 1. We plan to do the same thing with week 2 and 3. We're hoping that people who are watching understand that although the content here was specific to 3rd grade, as Taylor just demonstrated, totally applicable to 2nd grade. And if we can get our 2nd and 3rd graders working through this stuff, I think all of our intermediate grade peers can also have the same success. And the other part to watch for is we'll see if we can actually do sort of a recording of our classroom and what our kids look like using all the tools we've just described. And that might be as early as March 30th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Fine.
Absolutely. And I guess good luck to everybody who's out there. And if you've had suggestions and ideas, especially with different applications that play well with our Microsoft system, or if you're using something else, please share with us. We appreciate it. All right.
Don't forget to check out our website for additional information and other resources that we're adding as we have more time.
Perfect. Yeah, and we've got a community of people who are actually, I've just got contacted by somebody who wants to start digitizing some of our resources. So if you're game for that, we'd love to help as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the day. Bye.